But you have to stand for something. That's my most important advice. Gentleman in the gray suit right there. Yes, you. Question, thank you. I come from Vietnam. Like many others, I look forward to seeing you and the First Lady visiting my country. Vietnam, in the near future. I have a question. Mr. President, what do you expect the young people in the Southeast Asian countries doing in dealing with the current challenges to the peace? Stability, respect to international law like the inaudible. While promoting the cooperation between the 10 countries with others, including especially with the United States. Thank you. President Obama, especially with I'm sorry, the last part? Question, especially with the United States. President Obama, oh, with the United States. Well, look, I think that I've seen already significant progress with ASEAN countries. Over the last 6 years that I've been attending the ASEAN meetings and the East Asia Summit. And I think initially the meetings would oftentimes just be symbolic, and there would be a lot of pleasantries. And a lot of meetings and cultural events. But we didn't always have an agenda. And I think one of the things that you've started to see is people working much more concretely on what are we trying to accomplish here. How do we develop more capacity, for example, in the region around disaster relief so that if heaven forbid, there's another typhoon of the sort that we saw in the Philippines, or if in fact, that we see some other natural tragedy that all the country's assets can be brought to bear. And we've done the training ahead of time to know who can help and how they can help. I think the trying to work on coming up with standards around maritime law is a big challenge. And obviously, there's significant tension right now between many of the ASEAN countries and China. As well as the United States with China, around the South China Sea and how those issues are going to be resolved. ASEAN has been very constructive in trying to put together a code of conduct that all countries should abide by so that disputes around maritime boundaries are resolved through law and an impartial process. Rather than just based on who's the biggest. And that I think is going to be very important. ASEAN can play an important role in those areas. Environmental issues I've already mentioned. This is a very fast-growing region, and it is important to make sure that there's a lot of cooperation. Between countries because small fisheries, etc. those don't always observe national boundaries. And so, working together, you can accomplish more. And then human rights issues, and democracy issues, reinforcing good habits among the countries is very important. I think it's fair to say that the elections that will be taking place in Myanmar would not have happened if it hadn't been for the good example that Indonesia set with its transition. And other ASEAN countries showing the path from military rule towards democracy. And how, through all the lessons that have been learned, that could be accomplished. And that I think created more space within Myanmar to and President Thein Sein to feel that this is possible. So part of the goal here is to make sure that each country is reinforcing the best habits and laws. And observing human rights. And being critical when one country slips, but in a constructive way that allows for a path to improvement. And I think ASEAN can do that uniquely. And the United States will be a partner. We have, obviously, bilateral relationships with each of these countries. But we also want to be a partner with the group as a whole to encourage this cooperative model going forward. Okay. Young lady right there, yes. Question, good afternoon, Mr. President. I'm from Indonesia. I work as a data analyst in the World Bank Indonesia country. Office. My Isiali theme is civic engagement. My question to you. Now that your second term in the office is about to end, how do you want the world to remember you? Thank you. President Obama, fondly, I hope. I still have 20 months in office, so I've got a lot of work. Still to do before I can start thinking about looking backwards. I'm still very much focused on what's in front of me. But obviously there are things that I've been proud of. When I came into office, the United States and the world was going. through a terrible economic crisis, the worst, really, since the 1930s. And it was hard, but we ended up avoiding a terrible depression. And within a year, the economy was growing again. Here in the United States now, we're back to the pre-crisis employment levels. Our auto industry was saved. But also, internationally, we averted a much worse crisis because of in part, the leadership the United States showed along with international institutions. And central banks managing that was very important. That's an important legacy for me. I think that the work that I've done to provide health insurance for people, here in the United States and to provide more educational opportunity is consistent. With the principles that I talked about, the reason I got into politics. Internationally, we've reinvigorated diplomacy in a whole variety of ways. People don't remember when I came into office. The United States in world opinion ranked below China and just barely above Russia. And today, once again, the United States is the most respected country on earth. And part of that, I think, is because of the work that we did to re-engage the world. And say that we want to work with you as partners with mutual interest and mutual respect. It's on that basis that we were able to end 2 wars while still focusing on the very real threat. Of terrorism, and to try to work with our partners on the ground in places like Iraq and Afghanistan. It's the reason why we are moving in the direction of normalizing relations with Cuba. the nuclear deal that we're trying to negotiate with Iran. Our efforts to help encourage democracy in Myanmar. I think the people of Myanmar deserve the credit for this new opening. But my visit there didn't hurt in trying to reinforce the possibilities of freedom for 40 million people. And so that direct engagement, the work that we've done to build and strengthen international organizations. Including on issues like public health and the fight against Ebola is just the most recent example of. That I think we've been able to put our international relationships on a very strong footing that allows us. Then to work more cooperatively with other countries moving forward to meet the important challenges ahead. But I've still got a lot of work to do. So maybe in 18 months, I'll check back with you and I'll let you know. All right. Gentleman right here with the sash. Question, hello, Mr. President Obama. I'm from Burma. And firstly, I would like to say hello on behalf of my family. And my question is, I work in tourism business in Burma, and my question is that what do you? See critical areas in where the US can contribute economic development in Burma? Thank you so much. President Obama, well, Burma, Myanmar, you know, it lost a lot of time over the last 40 years because of the very tight controls on the economy and the discouragement of entrepreneurship and new businesses. Part of the reason why I was so struck when I traveled to Myanmar was it reminded me of when I first arrived in Indonesia back in 1967, whereas when I go to Jakarta now, or Singapore or Bangkok, it looks completely different. This looked like the past. So there's a lot of catching up to do. The good news is, though, countries that are still at those early stages of development, they can grow very fast because there's so much pent-up energy and opportunity. And I think the most important thing is going to be establishing rule of law and systems and practices where if you start a business, you can feel confident that you don't have to pay 100 bribes and you don't have to hire somebody's son. And that you can make a profit, that if there's a foreign investor, that they can invest and be treated fairly, and that their rights and their intellectual property and their property are protected. Those basic systems of law where those are established, those countries can do well because the natural talents of the people and the incredible resources and hard work of the people then pay off. I mean, look at Singapore. Singapore is a tiny, little place. It has really nothing, no resources to speak of. But today, when you travel to Singapore, it is as prosperous as any place in the world. Why is that? Well, part of it is that it set up a set of systems where if businesses were started or investors came in, they knew that they could find a very skilled workforce. They knew that the rules were international standard rules in terms of operations. So it will take some time for I think Myanmar to move in that direction. But you have your own models even in among the ASEAN countries. You don't have to look to the United States. You can look at just some of your neighbors to see what is required for success. And what the United States will try to do is to provide technical assistance. And we will also try to provide direct assistance, particularly around building skills and education.